Hi, my name is Darylyn Brewster, and today I'm going to teach you how to make a simple face mask, um, hopefully using materials you may have in your house. So if you're a sewer, I'm sure you have fabric. If not, pretty much what you need, these are called fat quarters. The material for the face mask should be 100% cotton. They clean easily. You can use a bleach that's color safe and you'll be able to get your mask clean afterwards. But you don't have to use white. You don't have to use colors that are boring. You can use colors and fabrics that you like, patterns that you like. But it does need to be 100% cotton. You will also need elastic tape. This is 3/4 of an inch, so instead of putting it around your ears, you would need to put it behind your neck and over your head. You could also use ribbon. 1/4 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch is the best. You could use 4 shoelaces. They don't have to be flat. If you happen to have parachute cord, that would work. If you are a sewer and you have bias tape, that can also work. Or you can create your own. It takes a little more skill and you would need a sewing machine, but you can take a 3/4 inch strip of fabric, 4 3/4 inch of fabric, and stitch them together to make the straps for your mask. I also realize that some people do not have a pin cushion in their home, or straight pins, but in order to pin the fabric, you could also use safety pins if you have those in your house. You are also going to need a good pair of scissors to cut the fabric, or I also have, this is a rotary cutter, and you would use that on a self-healing mat. This is my piece of fabric, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it in half, because the size that we need is 9.5 inches by 6.5 inches. So we're going to fold it, we're going to measure it, make sure the measurement's correct. I'm going to add a safety pin up at, a safety pin or a straight pin at the top, and then I'm going to use my rotary cutter and a ruler to trim it to the size that I need. So what I want you to see is that my fabric, and this is only a portion of the fat quarter that's left, I have lined it up so that I have 6.5 inches marked, and I've lined up my straight ruler on either end so that my line is firm. I'm using my rotary cutter, so I line it up right against the ruler, and I make one long cut. And it's all right if it doesn't cut through all the way. You just go back over it. And remember, you have to use this with a self-healing mat. With remaining fabric, we'll make the straps. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut our straps. They need to be 3/4 of an inch, so 1/4, a half, 3/4. And remember, we have to line it up on both sides. So I look over here, make sure this edge is at 3/4 and this edge is at 3/4. And I take my rotary cutter, line it right up against my straight edge, and I cut. I have cut out all 4 of my ties. And then I'm going to actually use an iron to press them so it's easier. Um, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold them in a quarter on either side, stitch it together, and then attach it to my fabric. Our fabric is now 6.5 inches wide. Now we have to make it 9.5 inches long. So I'm going to go ahead, use my rotary cutter. Remember, we line it up at the top at 9.5. And we make sure down here at the bottom that it's also lined up at 9.5. All right, we now have our face mask cut out, and I have pins holding both fabrics together, and I put right sides together. So this is the finished product. It has 3 pleats to help it conform to your face, and we've put the straps on. They end up on the inside, but let me show you how we get there. We gotta put those up or my cat will play with it. So you're going to take the straps that we cut and you're going to tack them to the outside of the fabric. So the wrong side of the fabric, you're going to attach it in the corners. And to ensure that your strap doesn't get caught as you're sewing around the edge to put the 2 pieces of fabric together, you're going to take either a straight pin and pin the straps to the center, or you can use a safety pin. And you're going to put the straps on the right side of the fabric, and then I want you to pin it closed. So you're going to take your pin, making sure that you don't have any extra. We want it to lay flat. So we're going to pin it. So I'm going to pin it closed, and I know my strap is not near the line where I'm going to stitch. And we're going to do the same thing up here in the corner. We're good here. And when we're sewing this together, we have to give ourselves an 1.5 inch opening. So I put red pins here so I know when I get there, stop, don't sew there. And you're just doing a simple straight stitch. And I'm going to stitch all the way around my mask. I'm going to back up a little bit just to lock those stitches in place. We want to make sure to go over our edge, our strap. I'm going to back up again. I'm going to lift my presser foot and turn it. And we're going to do this all the way around the mask. So now we have this hole. So now what we have to do is we have to get everything. We're going to turn our fabric inside out. And that includes all the pins. This is probably one of the trickiest parts. Bear with me because we have all of the straps inside. So since we don't need our straps contained, I'm going to go ahead and take those off as they come out. 1, so I don't get poked, and 2, so it's easier. We're we're getting close to done. And now what can help us in the corners to make sure we've got, I guess we could just pull this up. But you can see there's still a little fabric tucked in that corner. So I'm going to stick a pin in the corner. To push out the edge. This one came out pretty good. All right, so we're almost done. And we're not going to worry about that hole, because if you notice, we're going to do 2 lines of top stitches once we get our pleats put in. So to create a pleat, you're going to take your fabric and you're going to fold it over. And this is usually, you only need 2 pins. I like to use longer pins. And if you don't have pins, you could use, if you don't have straight pins, you can use safety pins. Principle's the same. Okay, so we have 1 pleat. And remember, this is so that the mask will conform better to your face. We're going to take and we're going to stitch about 1/4 of an inch all the way around, and then we're going to do it one more time for good measure, a little bit closer to the edge. So what I'm doing now is I'm doing that final stitch. Note, if you're using a sewing machine, because you could do this by hand, that you're going through lots of layers of fabric, so you want to go slow. Pull out my needle pin, and you're just going to sew right over those pleats. And once you've stitched them, you can pull out your pin. Actually, you can pull out your pin just a second before. And remember, we're doing the stitch all the way around. So now that we've finished the first round, we're going to go just a little bit closer to the edge, and we're going to go one more time. Once you've trimmed the threads, you're finished sewing, you have a completed mask, and you're going to tie the